Hi, I'm Shauna Lake, and I'm the founder and principal consultant at Deepen Talent Strategies. This is our Ask Deets series where we have common questions and themes that are coming up in our client conversations. And we decide to make a video so that we can help educate people and have something to point people back to. And these live on our YouTube channel at Deepen Strategies. So, our current theme or conversation that's coming up a lot is interviewing and how to interview well. We're getting a lot of requests for role specific custom training and then general interviewing training. And some of those are virtual and some of them are in person or hybrid. So this is going to be our top 10 list, even though I'm not David Letterman, our top 10 list of interviewing pitfalls, things to watch out for in the recruitment process. So, just a little bit about us. We are a full service HR and payroll and learning and development consulting company. We are a team spread across 6 time zones, and we work with growing businesses and nonprofits on anything related to their talent, recruiting, training, and development. And we now have payroll services. We also do HR assessments. We do a lot of competency and development work, succession planning, handbooks, policies, procedures, and we have a learning management system with over 3,000 courses, including someone interviewing. And we have some custom workshops and training that we do, again, on interviewing and other topics. So we're going to dive right into our top 10 pitfalls. The first is simply failing to plan. What we see is resignation, panic, job posting, and some taking a job description and just throwing it out there and casting a wide net and not stopping to say, what is the role that this organization needs right now to serve our current and our future clients? How has the role evolved? How has technology evolved since we last hired for this position? Do we need someone at the same level with the same responsibilities? Just taking a moment to take a breath and reassess the role that you actually need to fill, if in fact you need to fill a position before you ever post the position, and definitely before you start interviewing. We have seen times where people get into a recruitment process, have evaluated candidates, and then decided what they actually need is different. You spend a lot of time and money, especially at current job posting rates, to get to that point. So pause and do that assessment before you start the interviewing and the recruiting process. The second pitfall that we see is not creating an interview guide. So an interview guide is a script to make sure that we ask all of the candidates the same questions and that we can get through all of the questions in a streamlined fashion with a panel to make sure that we're being consistent. But also we see that sometimes we get with some candidates that are very friendly and very warm, or maybe we have something in common or we even know them, we start to make small talk, taking up valuable time in the interview. And then we're not getting through all of our questions, and then we're not treating all of our candidates consistently. And when we hire the person that we might like the best because we had a very friendly conversation, getting a little too chummy in the interview can actually prevent us from hiring the most qualified person for the job. So having an interview guide or a script to conduct your interview will make sure that we hire the best person and we treat everybody fairly. And then the third interview pitfall is creating false, stressful situations. We want to paint a realistic picture of what it's like to work for this organization and to work in this particular role. Sometimes I see interviewers, panelists, hiring managers trying to make them sweat. And that's kind of taking the interview a little bit too far. We don't want to ask a question that they wouldn't really encounter in this role. So an example might be, what would you do if you were accused of theft? Well, without any context, the candidate might feel like they're being accused or you already don't trust them. So let's ask situational behavioral questions that are actually relevant to the work and paint a picture of what someone could expect. The nature of your questions should be about things they will actually encounter when working with you. So instead, it might be better to phrase it in terms of, in this role, we would be instructed to report any allegation of wrongdoing. Tell me the steps you might take if someone reported potential theft of company property to you. So we're not accusing them, and we're tying it back to the job description. So the fourth mistake that we see is missing an opportunity to sell the organization. So I've put on this slide an opening kind of introduction to an interview. So share everybody who's involved in the panel, their name, their role, their tenure with the organization, and provide a brief organizational overview before you start getting into asking them questions. So we usually say, hello, thanks for coming. Did you find us okay? Make a little bit of small talk. Then we introduce the panel. It also allows the candidate to catch their breath, get settled. But in that introductory statement about the organization, this is an amazing opportunity to say what a great place it is to work, how excited you are about this position because it's new or because the person who held it before made such an impact. So take this opportunity in your opening of the interview to talk about how important the role is and what a great time it is to be joining this organization. Then you can talk about key duties, physical requirements of the role, and start to get into some of those introductory conversations with your candidate. The fifth mistake that we see is not pushing the candidate for specific examples. So if you ask a question that's tell me about a time when, give me an example when, we see candidates oftentimes go into a hypothetical situation. Well, I would do this. Or they aren't picking up on those cues to provide a specific example. It's really important as an interviewer to push for a specific example. So to listen briefly and then say, can you give me a specific example of when you've done that? Because not asking for those examples means that sometimes people can tell a great story or they tell us how they might handle a situation based on kind of best practices, but the best determinant of how someone's going to handle a future situation is how they've managed a past situation. So make sure you get those specific examples. At the same time, if you've asked for a follow-up 2 different times and you're still not getting it, go ahead and move on so you can stay on schedule. The next, number 6, is not giving the candidate time to ask their questions at the end. It's really important that the candidate have a chance to ask you questions because it shows you how prepared they were. How did they think about this? Are they trying to imagine themselves in the position? If their questions are about how much does it pay and what are the benefits, then that may not mean that they're really engaged. They want a job making a certain amount. You want to know that they want this job on your team, in your company. So give them a chance to ask those questions so you can assess the extent to which that's true. You also want to make sure that you're staying on schedule. But an interview is a two-way street, especially in a competitive job market. So we want to make sure that they can make an informed decision after meeting with you. And then number 7 also comes in those that candidate question time. In schools, a lot of counselors, college recruiting advisors are coaching job seekers to ask you in the interview some version of, is there anything that would give you pause about hiring me? Or do you have any concerns about my fit for the role? It is not fair for them to put you in that position in the interview because you're not in a position to speak for the rest of the panel. There might be other people involved in this decision-making process, and you might have other candidates that you need to talk to. So we want to make sure that you, when you get those questions, just know they've been taught to do that, even though I don't think is a best practice. And then what I would say is, I really enjoyed meeting you. We have more candidates to talk to in this process, and we'll be sure to get back to you by X date with next steps. Now, make sure you actually do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to follow up by a certain date, be sure to do that. But don't fall for that trap of feeling like you need to actually answer their questions. Because if you were to say something, or somebody on your panel were to say something that hadn't been vetted appropriately, you could find yourself in some hot water. So if you were to say, well, we're kind of looking for somebody a little bit older or younger or more physically fit, all of those things could be really dangerous. So just so that no panelist gets themselves in that sticky situation, just dodge those questions, thank them for their time and their interest, and let them know when they can hear about next steps. You want to make sure that anybody who's participating in this interview process is well prepared to speak on behalf of the company and or answer those questions. All right, our eighth pitfall is not meeting the candidate's level of preparation. Hopefully, they are prepared. A lot of candidates today will have researched the company and scanned your LinkedIn profile. They'll be dressed professionally. Sometimes employers, the interview panel, isn't matching their level of preparation. If you're looking at a candidate's resume for the first time when you sit down in the interview, you have failed that candidate. You need to know their resume, have looked at their LinkedIn profile, know the questions, have that list of prepared questions, that script for the interview that you're going to ask, so that they know that you're excited, that they are important to you, this position is important to you, this process is important to you. Number 9 is putting them in the role. So this comes up a lot in interviews. I'll hear candidates, or I will hear interviewers say, in this job, you will work directly with candidates or with customers. In this job, you will travel 70% of the time. When you say you are like psychologically putting that person in this position. So if they don't get it after that, they're devastated because you talked as if they already had the job. It's a hard habit to break, but rephrase those statements in terms of candidates in this position travel 70% of the time, or the selected candidate for this position will meet new customers at this frequency. Stop saying you and putting them in the job because it makes that letdown really hard. And then my final one is what I call the fanciful extremes. Questions like, if you could be a superhero, what power would you possess? Or if you had an elephant, where would you hide them? I once had someone ask me, give me 3 reasons why manhole covers are round. Well, these questions are easy to cheat. First of all, Google's full of the psychology behind these questions and how to answer them. But they're also unfair because they aren't related to the role. And really, you're just kind of showing off how clever you are as an interviewer. You're not really learning any new information about the candidate. So stick to jobs that are actually relevant to the work. So that's our top 10 list of interviewing pitfalls. We do offer interviewing training in person, virtual, live, and via e-learning. So if you have any follow-up questions, we'd love to hear from you. And also if you have any topics or questions that you'd like to see addressed in a future Ask Deets session, please contact us at hello@deepinstrategies.com or connect with us on social. Thanks and have a great day.